Mike McDonald has left the Baltimore Ravens and he's joining the Seattle Seahawks. I'm joined by Mike, a Seahawks fan. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time we upload a brand new video. I'm here with Mike. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself for the people watching at home?
Yes, my name is Mike. I'm a big Seahawks fan, as you can tell by the jerseys and the helmet in the background. Super amped up to talk about Mike McDonald, the ninth coach in the Seattle Seahawks history. And I know this is a message that hits home for Makana. So I'm interested to get into this conversation with you.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, I hate the Seahawks. This is my
Me too.
least favorite team. It's not the Steelers, it's not the Bengals, it's not the Chiefs. I hate the Seahawks. But
Which
I
is
love Mike
ironically how we
McDonald.
became friends. Which is ironically like how we became friends. But
Yeah, that's true. I did infiltrate a Seahawks group chat.
yeah, you
Um,
did.
but
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so I just want to hear your initial reaction. We had been talking, not on camera, but we had been texting a lot about
Yeah.
who you wanted for your head coach. But what was your initial reaction to getting Mike McDonald? And if you were told day one of the coaching process, would it have been or coach finding process? Would it have been a different reaction, or was it something you kind of slowly built up to?
So that's a great question. Um, I will be completely honest. My number one choice throughout the process was Ben Johnson. Now, if you told me, like you said at the beginning of the process, Ben Johnson's going to stay in Detroit, who's your number one choice? It would have been Mike McDonald. I love everything I've heard about Mike McDonald. I think he's a defensive mastermind. Honestly, he really caught my eye on Christmas when he uh, played awesome on the defensive side of the ball. Well, he didn't play, but he schemed very well against the 49ers on Christmas. He's young. He's going to be now the youngest head coach in the NFL. He has a good background with the Ravens and Michigan. You know what? You want to talk about a Belichick disciple or a Shanahan disciple? How about a Harbaugh disciple? All right, we're getting one of those. So um, I was very excited for Mike McDonald to come to Seattle. And again, not talking about Ben Johnson, Mike McDonald would have been my number one choice.
Yeah, Mike's been listening to me all season long talk about how great Mike McDonald is, and how much
Yeah.
I hate Harbaugh. And
Yep.
I've just been preaching. I'm like, please fire Harbaugh, please fire Harbaugh.
Yes.
And the Ravens decided
Not
no.
to do that. He wanted
So
Harbaugh to be promoted to what was it, player VP or something like that, so that he
yeah,
could
Jim
get promoted by
Ortiz
McDonald.
was going to
Yeah.
the Chargers, and I was like, this is a great opportunity for Harbaugh to step into management right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
guy that's really bad at his job, but you want to
I
keep him
think
around, so you just give him
that's always
promotions
a
to other.
that's always a good sign though, is when the team that you take the coach from is like super pissed off that they got him, or that they lose him. So I think that that's a
Yeah.
good sign, and I think just across the league, this has been panned as like a universally loved move. Everybody has graded this out as pretty much an A or a high B. Everybody seems to love this move. Seahawks fans love the move. The national media loves the move. Ravens fans hate the move, which means that it's probably a good move. So I think just universally, everybody kind of accepts that this was a really good hire for the Seahawks, which makes me happy, obviously.
Yeah, and I think honestly, if I'm looking back over the last 5 years, 10 years of coach hirings, the one that sticks out to me that's most similar was Kyle Shanahan to the 49ers because he was coming off a devastating loss. Um, but I don't necessarily think it was his fault. It was a great season that the Atlanta Falcons had, and the 49ers go out there and they had been to Super Bowls 2012. They were in the Super Bowl, but it'd been a little bit. They were trying to get back into contending. They couldn't really get there. Similar spot with the Seahawks. It's been a little bit longer since they were contending, but still a team that, players coming up, they remember the Seahawks being an elite team and they remember them being in the NFC Championship game and Super Bowls. And Mike McDonald's going to that spot, and he's been utterly fantastic his entire career. He was the Ravens linebackers coach. He goes to Michigan and turns a defense that people thought were like decent defense. They weren't seen as like a bad defense or a great defense. It was like, okay, it's Michigan. They usually have a good defense. He turned them into the number one defense in the country. Aiden Hutchinson, who was like, he was not looked at as a,
Yeah,
he should be the
he
number one
wasn't a
overall
five
pick.
star. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, okay, like maybe this guy's decent, could sneak into the first round. They had David Ojabo, who was like a round 3 grade at tops, and all of a sudden it was just like, oh my gosh, this defense is insane. Aiden Hutchinson becomes the number 1 player in the draft. David Ojabo was looked at as a top 15 player in the draft prior to tearing his ACL at the Michigan Pro Day. It was like, oh, this guy's going
So
top
brutal.
20.
Yeah.
Dax Hill was not even looked at. He turns into, I believe he ended up being a late first. I know he went to Cincinnati.
Yes. Yep.
And it was just like he got those guys to play out of their mind. And he's going to a defense that does have a solid linebacker and Bobby Wagner, a good vet. And he has the opportunity to bring over a fair bit of Ravens if he wants
Yes.
to, which is definitely something we'll have to talk about because the Ravens defense has so many free
Yes.
agents on it
Yes.
of veterans and young players.
This is the
And the
perfect year to not only
Seahawks,
get yeah. Yeah, this is a perfect year to not only get Mike McDonald, but to get all of his guys from the Ravens because they're all free agents. So it's like the timing couldn't have
yeah,
been better for Seattle, you know? I think one guy that's an obvious fit for both the need of Seattle and for a guy, like you said, in the Ravens who's a free agent. Patrick Queen, I think, is pretty good chance he might come to Seattle. We have a whole linebacker now with Jordan Brooks being a free agent and Bobby Wagner being close to the retirement home, unfortunately. I think that makes sense. Obviously, he has a background as a linebackers coach. So I think Patrick Queen makes sense. Justin Madubuike, we can cross our fingers. I don't know if that's going to happen, though, because we probably want to re-sign Leonard Williams first because we did give up a second-round pick for him. But there's a lot of other free agents as well, I know. So we'll have to see. But I would pencil in Patrick Queen to the Seahawks. I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think the benefit of Patrick Quinn is he's still incredibly young. He was drafted, I want to say he was 22. And he was very limited in linebacker experience. He's gotten better and better every single year of his career. And Mike McDonald, if he wants to keep rocking with him, I'm not the biggest Patrick Quinn fan. He's gotten better. It's not, I just hate him in coverage. He's so bad in coverage. But outside of coverage, he's great against the run. When people throw like quick screens and stuff like that, he pursues the ball, he attacks. He's a great tackler. But just when that man is in coverage, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I feel that.
Mr. Moss all day. We saw it. We saw it in the playoffs. We saw it in the regular season. It's just
Yeah.
Devin Singletary's mossing you. You got problems.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he even got Zach mossed in the Colts
Oh
game as
God.
well.
Oh
So
God. I don't even. I want.
um,
Don't give me that image, please, because I'm too used to Bobby Wagner letting those crossers run right past him. So I don't even want to think of linebackers in bad coverage. All right, just don't even put that in my head.
But one of the benefits the Seahawks have is that Pete Carroll was unable to really utilize was some of their, I think, their secondary pieces. I think that the Seahawks had no idea what they were doing with them. I mean, you've got Jamal Adams, Blitz Boy, who can't really
Yep.
cover, and they were just like, what are we
Yeah.
doing with him? And they just
Go
started kind of
go play
playing him
free
like an
safety.
edge rusher. And then
Right.
like they'd put him in coverage and they're like, all right, we're going up against George Kittle. You're in 1-on-1 on the outside. And it was like, dude, this like,
Dude, what are you
as a
doing?
Seahawks hater, I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
Easy
I'm sitting
out
there. I'm like,
route.
oh my God, what are you doing?
I'm texting
Uh,
Mike and I'm like, what is your boy doing?
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's bad. It was bad. One thing that Mike McDonald, funny you mentioned the 49ers because not only I think is he going to be able to actually scheme our defense because people don't believe me and maybe Seahawks fans don't completely understand what we mean when we say this. The problem with the Seahawks in the last few years, the scheme has been awful, like straight up awful. Pete Carroll, the last few years has not had it. His defensive coordinators have been awful. The scheme has been a big reason why we've been so bad on defense the last few years. So I think Mike
yeah,
McDonald's going to come in and fix that. Not only is he going to fix the scheme, but in every report I've read about him, they've been able to maximize every single player that he's had on defense, right? Kyle Hamilton, I think, is a golden example. Obviously, he was a blue chip prospect coming out of Notre Dame, but he is a complete fucking game wrecker now because of Mike McDonald. He deploys him all over the field. He's in coverage, he's blitzing, he's, playing screens, everything, right? And I literally made a comment, and this is ironic now because hopefully it's the case, but I made a comment to you a couple weeks ago, McConnell. I was like, Kyle Hamilton is who the Seahawks think Jamal Adams is. Like the guy who can
yeah,
do everything, like blitz, whatever. Like that is basically what the Seahawks wanted from Jamal Adams. That hasn't been the case. And the other big thing is again, who on the Seahawks has been able to stop the 49ers? Who can stop the Rams? We get out schemed every single time we play those guys. We play them 4 times a year for 5 years at least. We haven't been able to figure it out. And it's just been so annoying. Every time I got to watch the Seahawks against the 49ers, it's like, oh, this crossing route is wide open. Oh my gosh, nobody was prepared for this end around to Brandon Ayuk or the screen to Debo Samuel or George Kittle up the seam. And it's like, guys, come on. We can't adjust. We can't scheme anything. And now I have hope that with Mike McDonald in, we finally be able to, again, I call him the Shanahan stopper. And in a perfect world, that's what he's going to be. But at the very minimum, just scheme better and adjust mid-game. I mean, that was just dreadful what the Seahawks were doing.
Yeah. And one of the things about Mike McDonald is he doesn't come from like a football background. He wasn't so, and I think that's a comparison to I think some of the Shanahans where it's like now obviously Kyle Shanahan's dad, he grew up around football. I'm not saying Mike
Right.
McDonald wasn't around football when he was growing up, but went to college, I believe, for finance. And then was able to get in at University of Georgia, I think was his first spot
Yep.
as a linebackers coach. And then Harbaugh was like, wow, this guy's good. And then other Harbaugh was like, hey, that guy's pretty good. Can I use him for a second? And then Harbaugh was like, hey, that guy's really good. Give him back. Give him back.
Give him back. Yeah.
Yeah, we want that guy.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we could see very quickly when Mike McDonald took over, with a couple of key players in the secondary was a massive improvement of play. And now that has something to do with the fact that the previous coordinator was Wink Martindale. He's Mr. Island Creator, Mr. Cover Zero, Mr. Anthony Averett, go lock down Tyreek Hill for me 12 plays in a row. But one of the guys on the Ravens defense was Brandon Stevens, who when Mike McDonald took over, I wasn't sure if he was going to cut it in the NFL. He was a player that was athletic. The Ravens talked this offseason, he was going to switch to safety. And he goes out there and he wins the starting cornerback job and becomes a shutdown cornerback in his third year of his career ever playing corner, fourth year ever playing defense in football.
Yeah.
And he goes out there and it's like, wow, this guy's turned it around. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton's made great strides. Geno Stone has made great strides. Another guy that I think could definitely go to Seattle because the Ravens have Marcus Williams. You sign a veteran like Ronald Darby and he goes out there and he's lights out in coverage. You have a guy like Arthur Millette and he's just maximizing all of these players. The Seahawks have guys that I feel like when I'm watching the Seahawks defense, I'm like, I don't think they know what they're trying to do with Witherspoon. I don't think they know what they're trying to do with Tariq Woolen. Mike McDonald is going to be able to figure out where these guys are best suited, how they can move them around. I would not be surprised, Mike, if you see a lot of corner blitzes out of Devin Witherspoon.
Oh, yes.
With his physicality. Mike McDonald loves the corner blitz. Arthur Millette was great at it. He's going to get him, getting pressures and having that defense get simulated pressures with all of their defensive players. But it's going to be.
Yeah.
I got to watch the Seahawks now because Mike knows this. A lot of people don't know this. I'm weird. I would much rather watch defense than offense. And so, like, for me, I'm not like, I don't enjoy watching the Chiefs. I don't enjoy watching those teams. I'm like, I want to watch a team that just plays really solid fundamental defense. I'm going to be watching the Seahawks because they're going to be playing the football that I like to watch. And I hate it.
Yes.
Finally,
Mike McDonald has saved us.
I know. But it's just something I'm like excited to watch.
Yeah, that's the other thing you mentioned about Pete. They didn't really know how to deploy Devin Witherspoon. You're absolutely correct. Pete does not like the blitz. He's a play soft zone. Keep everything in front of you. In the prime Legion of Boom days, obviously we had that great defensive line, but Pete's not a guy that likes to blitz. I would definitely imagine that we see a lot more Devin Witherspoon. Blitzes from the slot. Because when he did it, he was so good at it last year. That's what's so frustrating. It's like, this guy's awesome. He was getting after the quarterback. He was, damn near. I mean, there was against the Cardinals, he was all over the field. And it was like, wow, like this guy is special. And it's like, but yeah, we're never going to blitz you. We're going to keep you in the slot. We're going to play you in a flat or a cloud zone. And it's like, well, he's a playmaker. You got to let him be a playmaker. So Mike McDonald, I'm so excited to see what he's going to do. I also texted you, and I've since found out that you guys run a 3-4. I'd imagine he brings that 3-4 defense to Seattle as well, which I think bodes well for guys like Boye Mafe, Leonard Williams. Hopefully, he comes back into the
Yep.
fold, and Draymond Jones as well. That does mean we need to beef up our linebackers, which again gives me hope that we're going to get Patrick Queen. But I'm just so excited. I'm interested to see who we're going to get at coordinators. My guess would be Anthony Weaver. It would be my best guess at
Yeah.
defense coordinator.
I think Anthony Weaver.
And then offensive coordinator, it's kind of up in the air. People have been saying T. Martin, Mike Kafka still an option. Pep Hamilton, people have been saying. So there's some options there. So I'm interested to see how he builds out the rest of the staff.
I did hear a rumor though. Mike McDonald's favorite coordinator in the NFL was Matt Canada because of how easy he was to stop. Like he built a relationship with him, playing against him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So there are some rumors Matt Canada could be going to Seattle.
He just wants. Well, he's got to hire Matt Canada just so his defense looks so good in practice that the coaches are so impressed. They're like, wow, this defense is insane. And then you get to the game and it's like, oh no, this offense is just ass. So
well, that's how they beat the Chiefs. It was like, let's have the worst offensive imaginable so we can show off Mike McDonald. That's how he's gonna be in Seattle. If we have a horrible offense, and maybe we sign Jimmy Garoppolo, trade for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes. Everybody thinks our defense is so elite, but our offense is just terrible. No. Listen, I said before that this hiring was an A+. If he hires Mike Canada, it probably goes down to like a C minus. It goes down a couple letter grades. So it'd be like if you just didn't do your final assignment, like your final test for one of your college classes, you drop a couple grades. But no, Matt Canada, I hope you keep him the fuck away from the VMAC at all costs. But yeah, I'm interested to see how he builds out his staff, what he does. But I could not be more excited. I mean, I think that this is a great new era in Seattle that we're about to see.
Yeah, and one final question I want to ask. Head coach, obviously, it's a major decision in this. You didn't like Pete because of it. But first round, you guys are in a really good spot, I think, for the positions that you guys need. Now, you might not necessarily be able to get quarterback, which is unfortunate. But, if you do want to snag somebody, you can. There's definitely going to be guys that could succeed available. Penix, your main man, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, potentially. If Mike McDonald likes any of those guys. Right. I don't know. I don't know if he has any affinity for Michigan players. That's weird. But he's like, actually, he probably knows JJ McCarthy sucks. He's like, I want to get some practice every day, man. We were teeing off. Why do you think our guys were so good?
Oh my God.
But I mean, you can definitely get defensive tackle, pass rusher, corner's going to be available. You could obviously go offense as well. But if you're Mike McDonald, you're trying to build out this defense, and you're looking at this draft class, are you targeting a certain player at this point prior to knowing any free agents?
Yes. There are two guys that I'm really keeping my head on a swivel for. The first one would be Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle out of Illinois. Because again, you don't know if we re-sign Leonard Williams, maybe it's a different story. But you saw how dominant of a force Justin Madubuike was for you guys. And again, assuming we get Anthony Weaver, the defensive line coach, that just makes a whole lot of sense. Last year, when we took a defender from Illinois in the first round, worked out pretty good. So why not do it again? But I think this defense has lacked for years a dominant interior defensive line presence especially at like that nose tackle. Draymond Jones, he's not so much of a nose. He's like a 3 tech. So I just think like a really good, 1 or 0 tech nose. A guy like that, Jerzon Newton, would be great, especially in a 3-4 where defensive tackles I think are so valuable. And then if he's off the board or if Leonard Williams is re-signed or whatever, I think Jared Verse out of Florida State. I think he's a guy that could be there at 16. Verse. We need edge rushers. I think Boye Mafe is a really good player, but I don't think he's like your dominant. Like he's not like a Nick Bosa where he is the focus of the defensive game plan. I think he could feast if he has a guy alongside him. If we have 2 really good edge rushers, so I'm looking at Jerzon Newton or I'm looking at Jared Verse to help our defensive line.
Yeah, I think both of those guys are great options. One thing that I really loved Mike McDonald doing, which I think is different from a lot of other defensive coordinators, it's just that new scheme that he's bringing is he loved Michael Pierce. And Michael Pierce ended up getting a 3-year extension in Baltimore, which I think a lot of people weren't expecting, because
Yeah.
I believe that in the modern NFL, people are trying to do away with the big, 0-1 techs.
Hmm.
But you watch some games and you're like, these guys are able to hold the pocket or
Yep.
get pushed. They're not getting sacks, but they get pushed and they can swat a pass. Michael Pierce was great at that. Um,
Yep.
and a lot of teams just don't run it. And that allows the quarterbacks, because the pocket just gets shifted very badly. Quarterbacks are able to scramble right up the middle. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes,
Yep.
Lamar Jackson. You're in a division with Kyler Murray. He can
Yep.
do that as well. They're going to be able to take off because you're not having somebody that can set their spot. So I think Mike McDonald will look to get someone like that. Now, Shaq Williams can't do that. Sorry, Leonard Williams, not Shaq.
Yes. Yes. I was like,
He can definitely hold the interior of the defensive line. But if he does leave, going after a guy in the draft that is, a true nose tackle that people see as a run stuffing guy, he can be in on passing situations to hold the pocket, which I don't think a lot of defensive coordinators are doing right now, which is another thing that I loved from Mike McDonald. It was like looks quarterbacks don't see anymore.
Yep. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think defensive line is a huge point of emphasis, and I really like Truzz Newton. I'm from Illinois, so maybe I'm biased, but I've loved what I've seen from him. So, and the Seahawks are also not in the best situation salary cap wise. So if they want to save some money by not extending Leonard Williams, I could see a scenario where they let him go, which would be a disaster because of the trade. But whatever, new regime, and then draft Truzz Newton at 16, and hopefully replicate his production.
Yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more content. Go check out Mike's channel. I'll link it in the description. And I'll see you guys again next time.